Beats by Dallas, make it hurt.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Commercial Real Estate Investing, the Black Community Edition. I'm your humble host again, as always, Dominic Green, managing partner here in the Dallas area of Atenico Commercial Real Estate Services. And as always, the platform where we have discussions amongst ourselves regarding commercial real estate. Investing in commercial real estate, things that are happening, things that we're seeing, me giving, insight and just feedback or insight stuff that I've been listening to, hearing, seeing on the ground, participating in, things of that nature. So we as a community have the inside knowledge and leveraging everybody's experience to acquire commercial real estate, income producing commercial real estate assets. Whether that be multifamily, retail, you name it. Everybody has different options and different, I would say, interests. And then obviously risk tolerance as well. But nonetheless, this is just the platform to have that discussion, especially amongst ourselves, because I know that commercial real estate investing is really not brought to the attention of our community. I could just tell you, just in general, in the brokerage community, it's not plenty of us in it, and which is understandable. There's certain things that go along with that as well, but very few in between. And then when we do hear about investing, for the most part, it's stocks, there's a reason for that, and maybe it's on the residential side as well. But as I always say, man, when you've been in the business of brokerage and you're helping people and helping businesses lease these properties, and you realize and you're underwriting and getting offering memorandums of these different asset classes, man, they're making money. Now, is there issues? There's issues in every sector. There's issues in every niche. But again, this is where we have those discussions and we provide that information so we can be aware of what we're getting into. Everybody can collaborate and offer their insights as well. Because like I said, in the day, we're trying to acquire these properties so we can, have the cash flow, take care of our families, serve a purpose and serve the community at the same time with the assets that we do own. Because like I said, real estate is nothing without the people. And the people in most cases in commercial is going to be the businesses in the local community. And then in other sense, if you're talking about residential commercial, which is multifamily, it's going to be the tenants that stay there, the individuals, the families that stay there. So, with all that being said, it's kind of an ecosystem of stakeholders that we're looking to satisfy. And at the end of the day, the cash flow from that, we use that to take care not only of our families, but fund the things that are also most important to us, right? So, with that being said, today, Education Wednesdays, as I always come to you, man, we're basically at the end of the year in a sense, man. This is December. So today I want to just kind of recap a little bit, provide some thoughts, because, I didn't have a video during Thanksgiving holidays, was spending time with the family, which also going to bring that to have a discussion about that as well, in terms of, which relates to commercial real estate. But I guess I'll start there. So, probably early in the year, man, when I was talking about, different types of niches, hotels was one of them. Kind of my interest was more of the resorts, more of the drive-tos, just from the aspect of hearing and listening to the bigger guys, the institutional guys, the Starwoods and them, talk about what they were investing in, what they were seeing, what the numbers were getting, and the reports they were getting on occupancy and rents and stuff like that, and charges. When being that I was out of the country, and you start to see, man, there was a lot of people at these resorts. A lot of people at these resorts. So, as part of the ongoing conversation, that the leisure part of the hotel industry is definitely vibrant. You do see people, not necessarily, I don't know if say having conventions per se, which, I've been hearing some of that here, especially locally in the States. People starting back to having more in-person, larger group meetups, conventions and stuff like that, which, I told you at the beginning, I saw just a little bit of that. So I told you there were some changes going, going on in that industry. So you saw a little bit more of that, especially outside the country as well. Um, so that just goes to show that, um, not only you gotta commercial real estate investing, man, is definitely a contact sport. So you also got to go beyond the numbers in some instances, and when you're actually in the action, just always ask yourself what's going on and how does this affect my investment thesis or investment strategy, you would say. But nonetheless, so that's one thing I guess I wanted to get out the way. The other I was listening to um, a webcast from the guys at Walker, and just listening to these guys having the discussions in regards, what their outlooks are, the debt market and stuff like that. And some of it's still, the consensus in the sense is probably for the next year or two is going to be still relatively the same. They did have a discussion, which especially in multifamily and industrial land, where capital is chasing, you know, opportunities, and more capital is still on the sideline chasing opportunities. So, they're talking about how underwriting, which I've seen. So, if you guys, one thing I will tell you guys, if you get the opportunity to, especially if you're trying to get, anything like multifamily retail, find out the syndicators that are doing it. See if you can get on their list and see if you get opportunity to get, you know, insight or look at their offer memorandums and just start looking at it, man, what their projections are. Because basically, they're discussing, from a buyer standpoint, in order to be competitive and get the opportunity, which I know, you got to sharpen that pencil. So they're not really caring about, what in place cap rates are. They're thinking about year 2 and year 3 stabilized cap rates. Because especially, multifamily, they're looking to turn these rent rolls, over and mark them to market. So they're projecting like, hey, once these units turn, we're going to be raising rents aggressively, um, because of certain dynamics that's going on. And then obviously it depends on what market you're in as well. But then the counter argument to that, which, I also say as well, because I've been talking about affordable housing, is that, for most people think that pricing, especially in that particular, with housing, is just somewhat just inelastic. You just raise prices and keep raising prices. and one of the ladies on the discussion kind of echoed that sentiment. There is a certain point to where people can only afford so much. Now, that affordability discussion, which I was also listening to on another, I guess, webinar, you would say, they point out, yeah, I agree. A lot of that varies on, well, not agree. Let me start back. I agree that affordability is not necessarily an issue for all demographics and all classes, right? So, for instance, more on the lower end, BC type classes in the multifamily space, that is more of an issue because the people who are making their immediate income, they're not making 70, 80. They're probably making closer to 30, 40, somewhere in there, right, on average. But, for the guys that are going after these brand new construction, Class A, in the best locations, prime areas, these A plus institutional type properties, that are brand new. Well, the average, median income is probably roughly about 90, 95, right? So they can afford a little bit more, right? That rent to ratio is still within somewhat range where, they try to classify, for individuals not spending more than 30% of their income towards housing. They at that higher number, they're probably only roughly maybe in the mid 20s, mid to low 20s. And so the opportunity to, organically raise rents for these newer type projects may, over the next couple of years or so, push it to 30 or push it into the mid 30s, which, is pushing it, obviously, but it still remains affordable. But that same thing can't be said on the lower end, right? Those, there comes a standpoint where, yes, the conversation about employers having to pay more to try to attract talent. I think at some point that will stabilize, right? At some point. But, that's not for everybody. Not everybody's getting the wage increase. And there's certain jobs that are offering that for certain types of talent. So not everybody's going to get that. There's still been historically a lack of wage increases, right? And that's kind of one of the things where, from at least a standpoint, when you're helping the industrial clients, one of the big things is like, hey, we got to stay away from Amazon, right? Because at the time, they're trying to pay their warehouse workers seven to eight, maybe $9 to $10 per hour. Well, out the bat, Amazon's paying $15 an hour plus additional benefits, right? So what does that do? If you're trying to lease next to Amazon, you're pretty much going to lose most of those warehouse employees, because why would they settle for less when they can make more? All right. So, that was one of the factors in it, which is very unique, right? So, just some interesting stuff on that. A lot of the outlook, like I said, is pretty much the same. Affordability. If people are suggesting that, which I've seen, people are going towards more development, ground up development, because obviously the spreads and yields are better. And also as well, capital is looking back at, circling back around. Like I said, looking back again at hotels. I just got an email the other day about a group that's going to look at hotels. They've been looking at it, and now they think that's the times to do it. So because the yields are better, right? Because when you have so many people going after one type of asset, man, the yields get compressed. And some people have lower cost of capital than others. So that plays into it. But yeah, ground up development, age targeted type of developments as well, or acquisitions. And then obviously the big concern for some is, people buying these really older 50-year plus old assets and trying to do a deep value add on it, and thinking that they're going to get the residual value, because like I said, it's still competitive for those particular properties. The word value add is labeled to a lot of these products because they know from a marketing standpoint that everybody's looking for it. So you tag that on there, people, are going to gravitate towards it. And if they are inexperienced and don't understand it, they're going to probably overpay for it, right? And that's the same thing that was also being said in similar webinar where they were talking about office, medical office. So people were, going out here and labeling, because, medical office is a product that's hot too. Everybody's trying to get, it's been steady, steady Eddie, as they say, as far as from cash flow and not a lot of availability of product. So yields are kind of compressing there, but they're tagging, certain product that may have one medical tenant in there, and then the rest of the office building has accounting and stuff like that, and they're labeling it as value add, which, now, that's not necessarily a medical building per se. Medical building has pretty much, I would say, at least 80% medical tenants in there. And there may be some variance, but majority of tenants there, and there's not that. So yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's obviously a crazy time. It's just so much money, so much capital out there. And so if you got something to sell, time to sell, right? As they say. What else? Industrial is still hot. I think one of the articles I did read is that industrial, from a standpoint of cost, that's starting to catch up. So also rents are growing. From one guy, it's like 20 to 30% month over month, I believe he was saying, that the rents have increased on some infill industrial. But also I know that cost has finally caught up in a sense to where it's getting more and more expensive to do, build industrial. So I guess there's a little lag in between. Now it's finally caught up, and I know that some of the construction companies are now starting to pass on that cost more so. So that's interesting. I think also the discussion they were talking about foreclosures and commercial Basically, as long as there's some value add piece there to fix, it's still a quality asset. Um, there's rescue capital. So anything that's, people talking about, well, I'm wait for stuff to foreclose. Nah, it's probably not going to be that opportunity anytime soon, because again, there's just so much liquidity out there. So many people have so many funds and stuff like that. There was also an interesting discussion about the build to rent products, which I talked about already. About where some of these things are being built at, and then the price points that they're being offered at. So there's only a certain demographic that can actually afford to actually live in these build-to-rent communities. Great product though, in most cases, but there's only a certain demographic that kind of was echoed as well. So not everybody's going to be able to get into that particular product, which goes back to the discussion they were having about affordability, which I talk about as well often. But yeah, I think those are probably some of the biggest takeaways I would say from that I can pass on here to provide some insight and discussion. I think, and then let me touch base on office, because we talked about that as well. And I kind of agree. So anything that's, newly built Class A, and depending on where it's located at, they'll probably get decent a decent lease up velocity, definitely be attractive as far as the investment. Something that's very obsolete, out of the way, poorly constructed, will probably struggle, to which they're going to have to lower their rates, which, that's typically what happens. So if you have a hard time attracting, tenants, the first thing you got to do is, or the first thing that goes is you're holding on the rent rate. So you start decreasing rent to a point to where you try to make it attractive, because you don't have in some cases, these guys don't have the capital, or, depending on where the building is and where it's located at, it's just not appealing, especially in this current environment where, businesses are rethinking the way they're going to use their space. And then they still want to have a space to where they can collaborate. They can also attract talent still. It's just going to be a variance of how it's being used throughout the week, you would say, throughout the time period, but it's still going to be a necessary part. Not everybody's going to be 100%, virtual. And you hear that in essence from a lot of CEOs and stuff like that. So, like I said, just want to drop in, man. Thank you guys for continuing to turn in, to watch the videos, provide comments and stuff like that. Definitely appreciate it. I hope everyone is achieving their goals, and if not, let's work together to achieve, or start planning to achieve, for 2022. I'll continue to, provide insight, provide videos, updates. As I said, I'm still working on and progressing slowly though, but progressing on my pursuit in syndicating affordable housing, looking at different models, having discussions, building relationships, and getting the capital to secure that. So, it's going to be a push, man. I'm in it for the long term. So should you. Investing, especially in commercial real estate, should be a long-term goal. Investing in general, you should probably be long-term. But, everybody has different preferences. So that being said, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me, you guys, what you would like to hear, if it's something, particular topic you want to discuss. But I thank you guys. And as always, happy investing. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, give it a thumbs up. So again, happy investing. Until next time, guys. Deuces.
These my dollars make it hurt.